Let's do a June reading wrap up. Welcome. Life is nuts, so let's escape into great books. I am Shania, your top tier book reviewer. So, today we are going to talk about all the books that I read in June. Now, I read 9 books, but here are 5 of them because I did this video with the library copies of the books that I've read also, and I just didn't like it. So I'm refilming it and I had to turn those library books in. And when I turned them in, I didn't realize that I was going to dislike the video that I made so much. So I'm just going to have to do little graphics for those books because now I'm on a wait list for them and this video would come out who knows when if I waited. The first books we're going to talk about are the first 3 books of the Chestnut series by Elsie Silver. They're cowboy romances. I had finished reading the Poppy War, and I really needed something to decompress. Actually, I also read Blood Over Brighthaven, and then I went into these books because I went to the beach, and I just stared at the water, and I read these nice, easy palate cleanser romance books. So let's talk about those first. The first one is Flawless. Now, this is it was okay. So Rhett's a bull rider. Summer works for her dad's PR firm who handles Rhett's account. And at the beginning of the book, he gets into some PR trouble. So her dad is like, hey, Summer, I need you to go babysit him for a couple months so that he can stay out of PR trouble. So we get like a forced proximity situation. It's marketed as enemies to lovers, but that is definitely a stretch. But they have to spend time together and you know how that goes. And I did like that it introduced us into Chestnut Springs and we got to see the Wishing Well Ranch where all the Eaton family grew up. We get to meet the brothers and Bo, Rhett, and Cade. Cade's the oldest. And then their cousin, well, not their cousin, but a friend, Jasper, who, due to whatever was going on in his childhood, actually was raised with them. So we get to meet all of those and the dad, who is hilarious. I like the dad. That I enjoyed. But Rhett and Summer, I could take or leave them. I wasn't super interested in them. The spice was decent. I didn't really find it to be that engaging. Then the next book is Heartless, which has the older brother Cade. Now this one I enjoyed more. He is a grumpy single dad who has had a whole issue with why he's a single dad. And then Willa is Summer's friend. She's like a free-spirited musician, bartender, kind of like does kind of whatever she wants. Her family is well off, so she doesn't really need to work for money to survive. So she gets sort of the leniency to kind of explore what she wants to do in life. So she becomes the nanny because Cade needs a summer nanny because the nanny he had was getting too old and his son was just running her ragged. So put those 2 together, and so we get another forced proximity, but we get a grumpy sunshine nanny age gap romance. And this one I liked because Daddy Cade, yes, you need to meet Daddy Cade. Daddy Cade spice is the spice that we all need. So this one I liked more. Again, not really my cup of tea, not much happening, and some of the plot points in it I thought were kind of like, why? So, but it was okay. I would say it's still a good palate cleanser. So then the next book is Powerless. Sorry, I don't have the books with me. Powerless. And that is Jasper, the family friend that I was talking about. And he is a professional hockey player. And then the cousin Sloan, who spent the summers with them, is the FMC in it. And so we get a friends to lovers, which is nice. And Jasper, he would have been my favorite, actually, because his kind of kink is my kind of kink. But I just have an issue. Now, hear me out. When a person's kink is attributed to issues that happened to them while they were growing up. So like because of those issues, that's why they like what they like. And I just don't like that. I don't know if that's realistic or not because fortunately for me, I haven't had to go through those issues, so I don't know if that affects this, but I do know some people who are into this type of kink and did not have that happen to them. They just like what they like. And I like that better because whenever we're in the spicy scenes, I'm thinking back to all of the issues that happened that makes him like what he likes. And it just takes me out of the moment and I feel weird. So I did not like that. And that's too bad because Jasper's nice. And I wish I would have had a little more connection with that. So those are those 3 books. They're like, easy reads that you can put in between some like hardcore fantasy world building and you just need a break. So I think I would probably recommend them for that. But if you are a person who doesn't have to read books in order, I would suggest skipping book 1. I could never read out of order. But if you can, just skip to book 2 and do book 2 and book 3 and forget about book 1. That's what I would recommend. You might notice that if I didn't love the book, I will not have the book on my bookshelf. I read Kindle and library books and Libby, and then if I like them, then I get them. And if I don't, they go back to the library. Hence why I don't have them right now. So the next one is Jar of Hearts. And this is a psychological thriller. It's like I described it as SVU with a sprinkle of Orange is New Black. But the SVU portion is more stabler than Benson. So there's these 3 teenage friends. Georgina, who we get her POV. She's kind of like the main character. And then Kaiser is the dude. We get his POV too. He's the one who becomes the cop. And I said that's like the SVU part. And then Angela. I don't have the book on me and I'm like totally blanking right now. I'm pretty sure it's Angela who is the other one. And she, when the book starts, she has been unalived. And Georgina is 16 and has a 21-year-old boyfriend who turned out or who grew into being a serial unaliver. So we have the 3 friends plus the boyfriend who is responsible for the unaliving of Angela. Hopefully that's her name. So we start in real time at the very beginning where Georgina is going to court for her being accomplice and helping cover up what Calvin did, her boyfriend. And then, so that's where we get the Orange is New Black portion because we get a little bit of that. And I don't know why we needed that Orange is the New Black part. I was just confused. Some of the plot choices were confusing to me because I'm not really sure, but I am doing a deeper dive on that and I will post that next week. So if you want to hear more in depth about Jar of Hearts by Jennifer Hillier, sorry, I don't know if I said that, then I suggest you read that because I don't really want to give anything away because of spoilers. But anyway, basically the story is present day, Georgina and Kaiser and the aftermath of all of that. And then it has flashbacks to when they were teenagers and leading up to the infamous night where it all went down and the time after that. And so thrillers is not like my normal, it's not like my home base. So I'm speaking to you about this from someone who doesn't read a lot of them. And I'm going to say it was decent. Okay. And I'm going to say that part of the reason why I'm only giving it a decent is because the flashback to the teenage years were so cringy to me. Maybe because I have a 13-year-old, but being in the mind of a teenager is extremely frustrating and disturbing when they're doing stuff that I don't want to hear about them doing. So that was difficult for me. But I think overall the story was pretty good, but I think the plot kind of went off the rails towards the end and it was just like, what? I mean, I get we had to get to a point at some point, but it just was like, da 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 da, boom. And then all of this, and I'm like, what? Some of it I definitely thought was like planned out throughout and made sense. And some of it was just like, WTF. So that's why I'm going to say it's a bit decent. Master of Salt and Bones by Keri Lake. This was a good time. It is spicy, erotic, dark, psychologically thrilling, little bit of horror, little bit of mindness. If you know what that means, mindness. That's what's in here. It is, I like this. It was a good time. We have Lucian, who's got a scarred face, a dark past, and a menacing present. And then we have Issa with her own share of issues in her past, who comes to Lucian's castle, which is a castle made of bones that overlooks the sea, salt and bone. And she becomes the nanny for his ailing mother. So we get forced proximity, age gap, and a dark, twisted good time. Keri Lake, she is now one of those authors that I'm just going to read. I just really like her books. She and I, we vibe. We vibe. So I'm going to recommend this with my whole chest because I like Keri Lake. I like dark, twisted, erotic, spicy good times. Caught Up. Now, I'm going to recommend this, and I'm not gonna feel any way about it because it is what it is. This is not groundbreaking, it's like detailed character development and stuff like that. This is just a spicy good time. And I do appreciate that it was trying to be a little bit more than that with its like socially wokeness and issues that it was trying to add through a thread of that through the story. And I appreciated that. Was it done the best? That's debatable, but I do appreciate the attempt. So there is some of that. I know that that turned some people off. They were like, I don't need you lecturing to me while I'm trying to have a spicy time. I didn't mind it. I do think it could have been done a little bit better, but the spice was nice. It is what we read this for, and I enjoyed it for that. Caught Up by Navessa Allen. Can't remember if I said that. Blood Over Brighthaven by M.L. Wang. This is so far my favorite book of the year. This book is so good. It is so good. It is magic, dark academia. So imagine if everything in the world, like you're heating your coffee, not everything in the world, sorry. Imagine if everything that required energy in the world, so heating your coffee, lighting your house, driving your car, required magic. And the magic is done through a series of spells by the mages. So without that, you got nothing. You are back to primitive times where you were banging rocks together, okay? So that is the premise of this, and it only works for the city surrounded by the barrier. Everybody outside of the barrier is SOL. So of course you have people trying to come in, and then the part of that is how they get treated. So Siona is the FMC in this, and she becomes the first woman high mage. It's not a spoiler, it happens at the very beginning. And then we get another bit of story from Tamil, who's from outside of the barrier, who comes in, and they become like, they have to work together basically. So we get a little touch of what life is like from the perspective of outside the barrier people. And then Siona, who's like the pinnacle of inside the barrier people, if you will. The high mages are like really up towards the top. And it is just great. The world building is great. The premise of the magic is great. The character arc that Siona goes through is immaculate. Immaculate. I couldn't put it down. And the issues that are going on in here, we've got racism, sexism, classism, all the things, they hit a little too close to home. You know what I mean? So this book feels so far with the fantasy world, but then like way too close for comfort with the social issues that's happening in our world right now that is currently burning. So I enjoyed this. I have never cried in a book, but this is the closest I've ever been. I may be like emotionally undeveloped when it comes to books, but I think most of the reason is because when I'm about to cry, I stop and put it down because I don't like crying. But my eyes did fill with water in this. Like the tears did not fall, but close. I recommend this book. Definitely worth it. My favorite read of the year so far. Bride by Ali Hazelwood. This is a cozy vampire werewolf rom-com. I love anything with vampires. You have to do a pretty terrible job of writing for me to dislike a vampire book. And one comes to mind that I'm not gonna, throw any shade to, but it can be done. So I can definitely not like a vampire book. But this was like, get on the couch with a blanket, snuggle up, and just have a nice time. There's humor in it. There's romance in it. There's some politics if you're into that. There's werewolves, humans, and vampires. and they all have like sort of their own areas of land, but then there's like political interactions, and so they each will send a person to the other territory for peace. So like you have one of my humans, I have one of your vampires, and if y'all start acting up, then I'm gonna do something to her, and vice versa. And her name is Misery. And she is like not really that great of a vampire because she spent so much time with the humans, which I think is funny. So that gives us humor, and it also helps us discover things about vampires as she's discovering them too. And in this world, they live off of drinking blood from blood bags that they keep in the refrigerator. So they're not all out, doing what they do. That can happen, but that's not their main source, and that's how they become civilized. So she isn't used to any of that. She just goes to the fridge and whatever, and then she becomes betrothed to a werewolf, the alpha of a pack, for political reasons. So she gets thrown into the werewolf, and so we get introduced into that world, and we get some things like that. I will say that I wish there was more vampire stuff and werewolf stuff and less politics of the world, because that's what a lot of this is. And I just like vampires being vampires and werewolves being werewolves, and what that means for the author, because each world is different. There wasn't a lot of it. And I mean, that's why we're here, right? But it's okay. It's okay. I still enjoyed it. I still recommend it if you just want an easy, cozy vampire book. Oh, something very interesting about this is vampire blood is purple and werewolf blood is green. So that was new. Okay, that's all I have to say about that. Last but not least, Shield of Sparrows by Devney Perry. Wow, where to begin with this one? So the bottom line is, do I recommend you read it? And the answer to that is going to be yes, because I do think it's interesting. And I do think that my favorite part, the creatures, I love new creatures, and there is like a plethora of new and interesting creatures in here. That was enjoyable. But this plot dragged. I mean, this book could have been half as big, and I'm not exaggerating, like half as big. It was so slow for no reason. Like the rule of thumb when you're writing or directing a movie or something like that, and it's like, if you take the scene out, does the story still make sense? And if the answer is yes, then that scene shouldn't stay. There's like too many to count of those in here. And it just made it so difficult to get through. This is a big book, and it took me some time. Also, my least favorite way of world building is the main character asking questions. And that's what we got here. Like, I don't need that anymore. I've already done that. Okay? I don't want that anymore. And the question asking, and then everyone's laughing about how many questions she asked, or they're getting like annoyed by the questions, but we're all acknowledging the fact that this person is asking too many questions. I don't like that. So that plus the dragging, I was almost out. Despite how interesting the world and the creatures were, I was very frustrated. But I pushed through because everyone said it was good. And then when I got to the end, I was like, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. This ending was great. I can't wait for the next book now. I went from like wanting to throw this book across the room to now anxiously waiting for the second one because of the ending. So I do recommend it, but just keep that in mind and just push through, because you will be rewarded in the end. And I'm just hoping for better pacing and less questions in the second one. So those are all the books that I've read. Until next time, I'm hopefully going to be posting these videos every Saturday. Happy reading.